Travis Gillespie. We have actually, in the last couple of videos, identified correlations and described correlations from scatter plots. As you're scrolling up and down the screen here just to refresh our memories. But let's get some clear screen here. And the next problem I'm going to throw up, we're going to actually look at matching scatter plots to situations. So throw this up on the screen. Actually change the font some. Might help enlarging and changing the color as well. Cool. So now we got space to work. And it did just disappear. So let me try it one more time. I don't know what happened there. Alright, and so what this is telling us is that this scatter plot, it shows a relationship between the total amount of hours worked by a waiter and the total amount he earned in tips. Based on this relationship, predict the total amount he will earn in tips if he worked 8 hours. So cool. Let's change this color up real quick. And what I'll do there, great. I think we got this down now. And I'm going to change my tool up and then actually change colors one more time. And then we'll get back into this now. So we're going to try to make sense of this real world example here and see a scatter plot and see if that scatter plot actually makes sense based on the information and if it really comes to focus. So here's the scatter plot. And look, if we look on the horizontal axis, you see the hours worked. And if you look on the vertical axis, you see the total tips earned. And what this is, seems to be a positive correlation because it's showing as time goes on, the y value, the y variable increases. So as the x value or variable increases, so does the y variable. So yeah, this seems to be a positive correlation, and that actually makes a lot of sense because, well, the more hours that you worked, wouldn't you expect the longer that you worked, the more tips you would make? Yeah, it seems to be a reasonable assumption. Well, again, this seems to be positively correlated. I'm actually going to see if I can put or draw a trend line here using my line ruler. But if you're just working by hand, you might use a ruler. And I'm just going to say this, what I'm doing is not exactly considered exact science. I'm just eyeballing. What's called a trend line or a line of best fit is probably more accurate. And a ruler, the same thing. If you're using a ruler, it's not an exact science. However, there is an exact science to this, to creating or finding the line of best fit, and it's actually really complicated. However, again, just eyeballing it, it's not that complicated, but it will get the point across. And all you want to do is just kind of find out where the ruler or my line meets. It comes closest to most of the points. Yeah, so it looks like it might have a positive correlation here, which I do. It makes sense that the longer you work, the more tips you would expect to earn. And rather than using a complicated science to draw the trend line, we're just getting a good sense by eyeballing it ourselves. Some things to actually remember. I'm going to change color so you get my next point here. When you are actually making a trend line, some things you don't want to do. You don't want to make a horizontal. This is not the positive correlation is not moving straight up horizontally. And also, you want to make sure that some people tend to make a mistake by making theirs go downward. You don't want to make it go downward if the correlation is actually moving in a positive direction. So we're going to call this line a trend line for this particular data set. So this is our trend line. And now that you notice the points sort of conform to this line as well. They're really close. They're hanging around it. And you can use this as a model if you want to know the actual amount of tips you should get for actually hanging around and working for 8 hours. And if you look here on the trend line, you know there's no data collected for 8 hours, or if you look on the graph, not the trend line, but there's no data collected for 8 hours. However, the trend line is telling us, yeah, but look, we've got this positive correlation. And if we just sort of follow it along, you should expect to find your value of tips to meet up with the hours worked in this area, this region here. So we'll get another cool shape and actually circle that part. So yeah, I should be somewhere around this range. And so what I'm going to say is the actual tips, since there's no data point, so I'm just going to the line itself, and you just say, hey, it's about, well, this looks to be between 100 and 110, these two marks. So I'm probably looking at about 108, 105 to probably 108 and dollars for working 8 hours. So that's not actually that bad. $108, $105 for 8 hours of work, and that's your tips. So you can see the power of finding a trend line. It allows you to see patterns, to see trends, then actually from there make predictions as we just did. And I predict I will see you soon.